Hello, welcome to this session, A Science Librarian in Africa, a Fulbright Scholar partnership with the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, presented at the Charleston Conference on November 14th, 2022. This project is in partnership with the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund, the Fulbright Program, Middle Tennessee State University, and San Jose State University. It's a project for research and evaluation and library development. I'm pleased to introduce the project team, who we'll be talking more about in the course of the presentation. I want to share a little bit about our host institution, the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund. Of course, it was famously founded in 1967 by Dian Fossey, as described in her classic book, Gorillas in the Mist. Dian Fossey is also a graduate of San Jose State University, which is my alma mater, and where Joy and Hillary, my co-presenters, are also attending. And we're very excited about participating and supporting the legacy of an eminent SJSU alum. Recently, the actor and talk show host Ellen DeGeneres sponsored the construction of a new campus at the foot of the Volcanoes National Park. Today, the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund has 4 pillars or areas of operation: protecting gorillas, conducting scientific research, training future leaders in African conservation, and helping local communities. It employs about 120 people and hosts many visitors and students. You can learn more about current activities of the Fossey Fund on their website and through their annual reports. This year, the Fossey Fund opened the Ellen DeGeneres campus. According to their website, the multi-acre eco-friendly facility adjacent to the Volcanoes National Park includes 3 main buildings: the Research Center, the Education Center, and the Conservation Gallery, as well as housing for visitors and researchers. The Ellen campus will serve as a gateway for conservation for the many stakeholders with whom we work, helping to create the next generation of conservationists. I'm going to describe the project timeline briefly. It's worth going back and reflecting that I first met with Fulbright in 2019, and at that time considered the opportunity to submit a proposal for a Fulbright grant. Of course, then the pandemic happened, but in late 2020, I learned about the new campus of the Fossey Fund being built in Rwanda, and I approached the Fossey Fund in early 2021 with the project idea. Through working with them, we identified the needs for research evaluation and library planning. I applied for the Fulbright in fall 2021 and was accepted in spring 2022. And then I started planning for a 3-month visit in fall and for the fall 2022. I also reached out to the San Jose State University iSchool, with whom I have been an instructor for several years, because I wanted to provide the opportunity for emerging library leaders to participate in the project for their professional development. And I'll talk a little bit here about the process of applying for a Fulbright Scholar Award, since many of you who are attending may also be interested in participating in this program. Of course, you probably are aware of the history of the Fulbright program. There are actually many different types of awards and many different programs. So it takes a little bit of effort to discern which is the best program and which is the best type of award for the activity that you may want to do. So I investigated several programs and ultimately determined that the Africa Regional Research Program was the best fit for this project. Looking closely at the guidelines, I determined that this program allows partnerships with any institution, not just universities. A lot of programs only allow affiliation with a university. So you have to seek permission to become affiliated with an institution that is not a university. And so in this case, I asked their permission to work with the Fossey Fund and received their approval. It was also worth noting that the Africa Regional Research Program allows up to 10 awards, which is great because it increases the chances of acceptance. Some programs only, for instance, have one award or maybe two awards per year, so they may be difficult to achieve. You can also, in this program, choose your grant term between 3 and 9 months. The flex option is available, which allows up to 2 separate visits to your host institution. When applying, you want to look really closely at the program objectives to determine if your project would align with the program objectives. Also look closely at the application steps and requirements as you're writing your project description. Fulbright has an established budget for each award. Your home institution typically will pay the part of your salary that the Fulbright doesn't cover if your institution is a part of the Fulbright network. The Fulbright program offers frequent webinars, and program staff are available to answer questions. So that's very helpful as you work through the process. Of course, leave yourself plenty of time to investigate your options, develop your project, and establish a relationship with a potential host institution. In consultation with the staff at the Fosse Fund, the project proposal encompassed two main areas: research evaluation and library planning. So in the area of research evaluation, we are assessing the range of past and currently covered fields by the Diane Fosse Gorilla Fund and of the collaborations, because they have a lot of collaborating institutions and collaborating authors. Then we're also developing tools to help monitor, document, and evaluate the impact on various fields of research and the strength of collaboration in the key field of conservation for the purpose of future research management and targeted collaboration network expansion. In library planning, we're planning for a library at the Fosse Fund's new campus by applying library science research methodologies in the areas of public services, library instruction, and collection development. For the library planning piece, it's tricky because we have a very short time frame, so it's necessary to be strategic in what library planning can be done during the grant award and how to set the stage for ongoing library planning. In order to most effectively help the Fosse Fund create a library, we focus in the short term on collection strategies. We're creating an inventory of current books, developing an approval plan with Gobi, and we'll be selecting items for acquisitions. I hope to be able to use the State Department's diplomatic pouch, a service available to full-flight scholars, to ship several boxes of books to the U.S. Embassy in Kigali. To plan for library services, space utilization, and technology use, we're seeking input from various stakeholders through a structured interview approach. Through the interviews, we are assessing needs of potential users and use of the library. Interviewees include internal staff from across the 4 program areas and external partners from regional conservation organizations. Inevitably, we've discovered that there are needs that we would like to be able to plan for at this time, but cannot due to time constraints. Primarily among these are the need for an integrated library system and the need for a digital repository. It's been especially surprising to determine that they have a lot of needs for platforming their own research and reports. And so we're doing a little bit more work than we expected in uncovering those needs and possible solutions. For research and network evaluation, like I said, we're assessing the past and currently covered fields, and we're developing tools to monitor, document, and evaluate the impact. There's many aspects to research network evaluation, and the aspects that may be of interest to librarians may not be meaningful or impactful to researchers or other organizational stakeholders. Therefore, it's necessary to get a sense of what kind of bibliometric analysis would be needed for making strategic decisions about research activities and partnerships. Primarily, the Fosse Fund would like to assess the network and impact in guerrilla research, both in Rwanda and DR Congo, the growing biodiversity efforts, which are facilitated by the new lab space in the Ellen DeGeneres campus, new programs in community engagement and scientific capacity building through mentorship and training of university students. They also want to be able to measure the scope, dissemination, and impact of research in different areas with different techniques and by author demographics, such as with African authors or with female authors. So we're using tools like, Scopus and Web of Science to do this, but you'll notice from the screenshot that there are really a lot of disambiguation issues that we're running into. For instance, you can see that there are about 9 or 10 different variations of their name in the affiliate record in Scopus. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the issues that we've uncovered in trying to track their research, first of all, in order to assess it. So in working through these challenges, the team has created a bibliography of all FOSSEE Fund publications and acquired the full text if available. We learned that the FOSSEE Fund is tracking publications in an Airtable database. And so this has been very helpful to us, and we've been able to help them because we are reviewing their schema to recommend enhancements. For instance, they haven't been tracking the ORCID ID or funding attribution. So there's those two ideas plus others that we may be able to help them to include in their Airtable database so they can better track their publications. What's helpful for us is that in Airtable, they are already including features of the publications that they do want to track, such as the topic, the country, and the author demographics. And this information wasn't necessarily available to us in Scopus or Web of Science. So what we're going to be able to do is, now that we have a complete list of all affiliated publications, we're using Scopus and Web of Science to perform additional analysis. We're going to be able to use the features tracked in Airtable, and we'll combine that with the data available in Scopus and Web of Science to perform additional analysis with FOSSViewer and other tools. We'll determine the correct assessment strategy and visualization method for each area of assessment. And lastly, we're going to work to determine recommendations and procedures that we can document for FOSSEE Fund to use going forward as they continue to track and assess their research. So that's a summary of what we're doing and where we are right now. And now I'm going to hand it off to Hilary Meehan, who is going to let you know how we are getting this all done as a team. Please, Hilary, take it away.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. I'm Hilary Meehan. I'm a graduate student at the San Jose State University's iSchool. And as the SJSU iSchool team's project manager, I'm going to take a few moments to present you with a brief overview of our collaboration strategies that we've adopted to streamline team and individual productivity, communication, deliverables, and documentation. As you've probably gathered from Mary Ellen's overview, our project management environment is complicated. We've come to understand that there are 3 core project contexts, scopes, and timeframes. That of the FOSSEE Fund's Karasoki Research Center located in Rwanda, Mary Ellen's Fulbright project plan, and the academic requirements for the iSchool project team, the 4 members of which are involved by way of a semester-long independent study course for which Mary Ellen is our instructor. Obviously, each of these projects supports and overlaps with each other significantly. So in order to meet the project organizational needs of the iSchool team, I felt I needed to identify and understand the various goals, timeframes, stakeholder roles, tasks, and challenges faced and develop from that a foundational framework to achieve our desired outcomes. In this slide, I summarize my understanding of these core aspects specific to the iSchool team. The mission of the project management strategy is to maintain and facilitate a comprehensive vision, collaboration strategy, and project timeline for the team as we strive to professionally and creatively meet the information needs of stakeholders of KRC's Emerging Library Initiative. Because the 4 student team members involved with the library project are enrolled in a 1 semester long independent study, our work on the project is limited to fall semester 2022, which runs September through December, and aligns well with the Fulbright project plan. The scope of our project, it falls within Mary Ellen's Fulbright project, and importantly, the communication needs and academic parameters of the project team, excuse me, within the centrally important context of the KRC's staff and patrons stated information needs and goals and the mission of the FOSSI Fund. Specific to project management, stakeholders for project management are the project team members, the 4 students and Mary Ellen, within, again, the context of the KRC Center staff and patrons' needs and goals and the mission of the FOSSI Fund. The next slide, please. To achieve our goals, the project team identified 4 key priorities for communication, documentation, excuse me, more than 4, and resource sharing, including centralized communication, document co-creation capacity, an action items hub, task timelines, documentation and records management, and a shared resource library. We are a disparately located team. We're operating in different time zones, so it's abundantly obvious that cloud-based applications would best achieve our collaboration priorities. Next slide, please. So these are our collaboration environments, the 4 cloud-based applications that we're using to coordinate our efforts. No single, as you probably well know, no single cloud-based application is facilitating all aspects of our information needs and priorities. So we regularly rely on 4 key software strategies: Slack, Google Drive, Monday, and Zoom. Slack is a messaging app for teams. It's somewhat easier to use than email, less cumbersome. We have a shared Google Drive where we co-create, share, and manage documents and maintain comprehensive project documentation and the resource library. Real-time and pre-recorded meetings are handled in Zoom, the recordings of which are maintained again in our Google Drive. But the heart of the project management takes place in Monday. Monday, as you can see, provides us with a collaborative workspace environment, workflows, automations, timelines, and various app integrations, which are a little cumbersome, but it does integrate with the other platforms. It's not a perfect process though, so we often have to click back and forth between each application to ensure that information is up to date on each site and accessible to everybody. So that's a little bit of our project management strategy. I am going to hand off now to Joy Neiman, who will go over our documentation strategy. Joy?
Thank you, Hillary. Hello, I'm Joy Neiman. I'm also an MLIS student at San Jose State University, and my role in the project is documentation manager. For this part of the presentation, I'll be discussing much of what has gone into the documentation process for our project so far. We've identified the need for documentation in several areas, and some of those needs have fluctuated as the scope of our project has continued to evolve and become more defined. Given that we have a short amount of time to address a very tall list of tasks, it's been important for me as I document processes to remember that our goal is to provide a plan and implement initial support structures upon which a library can then be fully developed and eventually expand and thrive. As such, I've been seeking out the answers to many questions, such as who is our audience? Who am I writing these procedures for? Who will be reading and using them? And what is the best way to present the information? Are there any cultural considerations that I need to take into account? Given the number of projects we have going on simultaneously, what are our top priorities? What are the processes that we can implement before our project wraps up? What form will each document take? And how can we best enable the future library staff to access all of the information that we provide? Next slide, please. As of now, we're working on a few different types of documents. First, the Policies and Procedures Manual is currently a combination of both step-by-step instructions for tasks that Mary Ellen has been able to iron out while she's there in Rwanda, such as inventory procedures and ordering new books through Gobi, and 2 guidelines for additional standard steps and considerations to take when starting a library, such as creating library rules, determining circulation allowances, and potential library uses. This document is in the format of a user manual and will be an active document that can and should be updated and revised as their processes change. Second, a summary of interviews will be created that will compile all of the feedback that Mary Ellen has been gathering from her interviews with various stakeholders. The data compiled from these interviews will provide useful feedback for further evaluation around how the library can be used and what services it can provide for a number of user groups. Documenting this feedback will shed light on various perspectives as to what the library can provide for the scientists and researchers at the Karasoke Research Center, as well as how it can connect with the community in the immediate area to further promote conservation efforts. Currently, Mary Ellen is using a grid to record the responses from her interviews, and I will then take that data and summarize the findings in a report. Third, we've been keeping track of considerations that arise that we feel to be important to the growth of the library as a whole, which all fall into one of two overarching categories: library planning and network evaluation. These suggestions will likely be summarized in a report with tasks for both the library planning segment and the network evaluation segment being further grouped by priority. One, next steps, which are the tasks or deliverables that we're currently working on but will not complete prior to the end of our project. Second, short-term planning items, which should be considered by the library going forward as recommended short-term goals. And third, long-term considerations, which are the items or projects for the library to consider for future planning, 5-year plans, and long-term goals. This document will serve as our extensions and recommendations report and will be handed off to the library staff at the end of our project. Ultimately, our goal from a documentation perspective is to provide resources such as procedures, development plans, helpful data points, and various reports. As a part of that goal, we also want to ensure that the materials we provide at the end of the project are easily accessible. So I'm also working on creating a library website that will provide information about the library, house the documentation and reports we have created, and provide links to helpful resources and websites for the library staff to use. It is our hope that these tools will provide helpful guidance and direction for those who will continue to bring the library to fruition. Next slide, please. And here we have just a little bit of reflection of what we've done, as well as some thoughts about where we're headed since we're still in the midst of our project. In reflection, we have accomplished an astonishing amount of work in our 2 months of collaboration so far. Despite different time zones, no prior working relationships with each other, and an enormous amount of information to digest, we have been able to do so much. And also looking forward at the time of recording to about 6 weeks down the road, we'll be wrapping up this project and presenting our work to the Karasoke Research Center to carry on with the development of the library. This project thus far has been unique, rewarding, and beyond fulfilling. And we feel very fortunate to be a part of such an inspiring cause. And we look forward to sharing the culmination of our project with you in post-conference proceedings. Next slide, please. And lastly, some information about the presenters today. Mary Ellen Sloan, Fulbright Scholar and Science Librarian at Middle Tennessee University. Hillary Meehan, MLIS graduate student at San Jose State University. And Joy Neiman, also an MLIS graduate student at San Jose State University. Thank you so much. We're happy to open the session up to any questions you may have.